Chapter 01 Meeting Myself. Midoriya Izuku stood over the dead body of Shigaraki Tamura in a bitter victory. 20 years of blood, death, and war had led to this moment. The moment where they finally won. Midoriya fell to his knees and sobbed. There were no cameras pointed at him, no onlookers, no heroes, nothing. Everyone was gone, either evacuated or killed. Midoriya had nothing left. 36-year-old Midoriya Izuku was the only one alive in Hosu City. He damned himself for being so weak. He was strong, but not strong enough. Not strong enough to save Achiko, Todoroki, Kaken. They were all gone. Suddenly, Midoriya could feel one for all resonating inside him. He looked up to see a blonde figure looking down at him. No, it wasn't All Might. It was the one wielder Midoriya has not met yet. The first wielder of One for All. "Hello, Midoriya," the first spoke. It was a gentle voice that radiated justice. "Congratulations for ending the line of All for One." "It was for nothing," Midoriya shouted. He didn't care about who this person was. He had nothing left to lose. He was alone. All of his friends were dead. He had no reason to fight anymore. "They're all dead." "I know," the first whispered. Midoriya was taken aback by the sorrow in the first's voice. "That's why I'm here. I can give you a second chance." "A second chance?" Midoriya asked, curious. Again, he had nothing to lose. He would do anything to see them again. "I can send you back in time," the first stated. "With All for One gone, I can channel his power and grant one wish." "You know what I'm going to say." Midoriya stood up, reaching his full height. He was as tall as All Might, his hair and his eyes black, which happened sometime during the war when he unlocked his sixth quirk. "Just do it already." "Very well," the first stated. "I can only bring you in your adult form back. I will bring you back to the time when you're 6 years old. What happens next is up to you. Farewell." The first raised his hand as power started to form in front of Midoriya. He stared at the ever-expanding mass of energy in front of him before everything went white. Midoriya woke up in an alley in his hero costume with his civilian clothes underneath, just like always. His hero costume was a lot like how it was as a teenager, except for the fact it was pure black to complement his new hair and eye color. He took off his costume and walked out of the alley. The first thing he needed was an ID and a place to stay. He needed to decide on a name. Midoriya almost instantly knew what he would go with. Kuro Jisei, the Black Sacrifice. Seemed fitting. Midoriya, no. Kuro chuckled to himself as he walked off. He needed to prepare to meet his younger self. He needed to train him, prepare him for One for All. He could do this. He could save everyone. A couple years later, Kuro had solidified himself as the 24th top hero. He decided to go with the hero name Black Lightning, as his full cowl also adapted to his different color. He has only been using One for All, but he did have other quirks. He was moving into his new apartment today. He would be moving into the apartment next to the Midoriyas. Kuro wanted to keep track of his younger self and slowly ease himself into a stronger body so he would be more prepared for One for All. He walked up the stairs and entered his new apartment. His boxes already there thanks to the moving crew. Now came the boring part. After 3 hours of painstakingly boring unpacking, Kuro decided it was finally time to meet his neighbors. He grabbed the plate of cookies he had baked in goodwill and headed to his next-door neighbor's place. He took a deep breath and knocked on the door. Kuro thought he would be ready to see his mother, but he was dead wrong. A wave of emotions hit him full force when the chubby woman opened the door. Midoriya Inko, Kuro's mother. The one that was decayed right before his eyes by that monster Tamura. Kuro managed to keep a straight face as he looked down at the woman. Hello, he managed. After all these years, Kuro never managed to get past his social anxiety, especially when the numbers started thinning during the war. There weren't many people to talk to. I'm Kuro Jisei, your new neighbor. Please accept these cookies as a gesture of goodwill. Inko smiled, practically melting Kuro's heart. God, he missed this. Midoriya Inko. The woman introduced herself, gingerly taking the cookies from Kuro. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm sure Izuku will love these. Speaking of which, I'll be right back. Inko closed the door for a couple seconds before opening it again, a small, shy broccoli head in tow. The shy expression instantly morphed into glee as he looked at Kuro. "Oh my gosh, you're Black Lightning," he squealed, making Kuro smile softly. He was so small and adorable. "Can I have your autograph?" "Sure, little man." Kuro knelt down and took out a small paper and pen he always had on him, considering he never had a mask on when he worked. He wrote down, "Never give up. Always follow your dreams. Black Lightning," and gave it to Izuku. "Here you go." Izuku squealed again as he ran off, probably to glue it into his journal next to Kuro's entry. Knowing him. "I'm really sorry about Izuku," Inko said, a hint of pink on her cheeks. "He's a huge fan of heroes." "No problem," Kuro smiled softly at Inko. "It's always nice to know that I inspire people to become the best versions of themselves. I'll see you around, Midoriya-san. I have to go patrol." With a small wave, he walked back to his apartment. Kuro didn't actually have to patrol at that moment. He just needed time to sort out his thoughts. Later that night, a huge, stony villain with oars for a body could be seen destroying the building of a lone shark. People were running in fear, but the ceiling collapsed, about to crush two people. Before that could happen, though, a flash of black and yellow zoomed by, saving the two people. "I am here!" Black Lightning and All Might shouted as one person in each of their arms. They placed the people down and let them run off as they looked at each other and smiled. "Ah, Black Lightning, I've heard a lot about you. It's a pleasure to finally meet you," All Might shouted, smiling brightly. "Pleasure's all mine, All Might-san." Black Lightning smiled at him before turning to the villain. "But let's save the chat for after we deal with this villain." "Agreed." All Might boomed as the two rushed the villain, Black Lightning punching the villain's gut and All Might punching his face. The battle was over before it began. "The police are on their way," Black Lightning stated as he turned to All Might again and held out his hand. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you, number one hero." All Might grasped his hand, the force causing the air to move around them. "That's a mighty grip you got there, Black Lightning." "Same with you," Black Lightning smiled as they shook and let go. "I'm going to go back to patrols. I'll see you around." With a flash of Black Lightning, he was gone. Kuro was getting his mail when he saw a dejected Izuku walking past him. "Is there something wrong, little man?" Izuku looked at him with sad eyes. "Do you think I can become a hero?" "What are you talking about?" Kuro smiled at him. "Anyone can become a hero, little man. What's your quirk?" I don't have a quirk," Izuku said sadly. Of course, Kuro already knew, but he couldn't reveal that. "That's why people think I can't become a hero." "Bah, nonsense," Kuro boomed, his smile not faltering. "Like I said, anyone can become a hero. Say, do you want to become a hero?" Izuku looked at him, confused, then with determination. "Of course. Meet me at the beach after school tomorrow. Okay?" Kuro knelt to Izuku's height. It was time to start. If All Might wouldn't select Izuku as his successor this time around, he would be Kuro's. Izuku will be getting a quirk. Kuro swore it. "A hero needs a big, strong body to fight the bad guys. I'll talk with your mom and we'll get that body of yours in shape. You can become a hero, quirk or not. As long as you stay determined and follow your dream, anything is possible." Chapter 2, The Second 10th. Chapter text. Thank you Deem on AO3 for the quirk idea of being unable to detect Kuro's presence. I'm going to keep it simple and call it stealth. Sniper life? I believe that was a misconception. Whenever I say couple, I almost always mean two, and it slipped my mind that it could also be seen as a few. Izuku was 8 when he first met Kuro, and the time skip here lands Izuku at 14. I'll be sure to edit the first chapter. Thanks for catching that. Chapter 02, The Second 10th. You can't be a hero without a quirk. Midoriya's idol, All Might. Right there, shot down his dream. Why don't you become a police officer? Being a hero is dangerous. Being a hero can be very dangerous. The scrawny man sighed and went down the stairs. Midoriya stood there, a blank expression on his face. Even if All Might didn't believe him, he knew he had someone who did. Black Lightning, otherwise known as Kuro Jisei, number 7 hero, has been training his body and mind to become a hero. Midoriya followed his idol down the stairs and exited the building as he saw a crowd. Midoriya wormed his way through to see his childhood friend, Katsuki Bakugo, now being known as Kaken, stuck in the slime villain that attacked him earlier that day. Without thinking, Izuku ran up and plunged his hand into the slime creature before tugging as hard as he can, pulling out Kaken. "Oi, Deku!" What the Fu-dash Kaken was cut off when the slime monster grabbed both Izuku and Kaken and started to absorb the two as he started to laugh maniacally. As Izuku's vision starts to be enveloped by sludge, he could hear a voice yell, "Detroit Smash!" Izuku found himself free as All Might was there to save him. "Fucking Deku!" Kaken yelled at the boy, ignoring all the heroes standing around him. "I didn't ask to be saved. I don't need some quirkless loser looking down on me." Kaken stalked away, obviously mad before Izuku could protest. "What were you thinking?" Death Arms ran over to the boy to scold him. "Do you know how dangerous that was?" "I know," Izuku said calmly as he looked the hero in the eye. "I don't regret my decision at all. I saw someone who needed to be saved, and that's all that matters." All Might looked at Izuku in a whole new light as the boy walked away, a proud expression on his face. Izuku was walking home as he saw a familiar, scrawny man waiting for something. "Young Midoriya," All Might said, grabbing his attention. "Why yes, All Might-san?" Izuku asked, the adrenaline high already gone, so it was back to the stuttering. What it is it that you need?" "You know, those actions you did earlier. Even though you were quirkless, you did what the top heroes would do. Moving without reacting," All Might said. He looked at him, his black eyes filled with determination. "With a mindset like that, I'm sure you can be a hero. Meet me at the beach tomorrow morning." Izuku woke up early that morning and leaving a note to his mom that he was going to train with Kuro. Of course it was a lie, but Inko has approved of Kuro years ago, as he assured her that this would be only beneficial to him. Speaking of Black Lightning, Izuku was really excited to tell him about the events that transpired, but he was nowhere to be seen all day. Izuku saw All Might walking towards the beach as well. "All Might-san." "Ah, young Midoriya," All Might said. He was in his scrawny form, as he didn't want to attract the press. "Let us walk to the beach. We need to start your training." Izuku nodded silently. He didn't know what Kuro would say, but he hasn't seen him and Midoriya just figured he would tell the bulky hero later. To the young man's surprise, he saw the number 7 hero staring off into the horizon. "Hey little man," he said as he turned around. "Ah, Tashinori-san. I take it you're here to train my student." "Why, you know he's dash," Izuku started but was cut off by Kuro. "All Might's consultant," Kuro finished. "I've seen him a couple times while working with All Might-san. Anyways, I have some business to deal with. I'm still expecting to see you after school, little man." Kuro walked over to the pair and put his hand on Izuku's shoulder and looks at Tashinori with a soft smile on his face. "I never expected you to take on a student. I'm trusting you with him, Kay?" All Might nodded, and Kuro smiled wider as he walked off. All Might looked at the man skeptically, but decided to ignore it for now. After all, he had a student to teach. 5 months later, it was time. The previous training that Kuro did with Izuku helped immensely, as Izuku's body was already well developed. As All Might hands Izuku his hair, he beams at him with that signature smile of his. "Be sure that no one learns that you got this power from me. There are a few people who know, but no one more should learn." "Does Black Lightning know?" Izuku asked. Kuro was practically the cool uncle Izuku never had. Izuku wanted to tell him, but he understood the dangers of that knowledge. "He does not," All Might simply stated. After school, Izuku went to the beach to train with Kuro as usual. Kuro was standing, staring at the horizon, just like that day 5 months ago. He almost never does that. He only did that when All Might started teaching him. "Ano, Kuro-san?" Izuku asked, causing Kuro to turn around. "Are you okay?" "Yeah," Kuro said. "I'm just thinking about how I should help you with your quirk." How did you know I have a quirk?" Izuku sputtered. He had only gotten his quirk today. No one should have known about it. Not even Kaken or even his mom knows about his new quirk. "I have my ways," Kuro simply stated. "Anyways, that smash shit that All Might was teaching you? Don't do that. All Might was a prodigy with his quirk. Your body hasn't adapted to the quirk, so if you focus it on one spot and attack, you'll wreck your arms. Only use it as a last resort." How did Kuro know so much about One for All? All Might said Kuro shouldn't even know about, much less how to use his quirk. Before Izuku could say anything, Kuro continued. "Try focusing the quirk on your entire body. Think of it as like a buff in a video game. Try to control it, though. No more than, say, 5%. Any more as of now and your body will start to break under the power." Izuku had a lot of questions but decided to try it out. He concentrated on the power deep inside him and focused on channeling it on his entire body. His body started to glow and green sparks started to crackle around him. "Good, now try attacking me," Kuro said, his arms crossed. It wasn't uncommon for Izuku and Kuro to spar. Izuku dashed at Kuro, but was taken by surprise by the force of the movement, and flew a few feet into the water as Kuro sidestepped and dodged his attack. Kuro snickered inwardly as Izuku dragged himself ashore. "You knew that was going to happen, didn't you?" "Yup," Kuro said, smiling. "Now we'll spend the next 5 months getting you familiar with your power at only 5%. No going further until I say so." Izuku sighed and called for the power again, preparing to attack his mentor. "All right, let's do this." After a couple hours of training, Izuku laid on the ground, panting as Kuro stood over him, no small amount of pride on his face. "Good job, little man," Kuro said as he offered Izuku a hand. As Kuro pulled him up, his expression went serious. "One thing that I need you to do is not tell All Might of my knowledge of One for All. If he finds out now, then we'll probably get into a whole den of trouble that we don't want to get into now. I promise I'll tell him, but I'll do it when I'm ready." Izuku nodded at Kuro, and the tall man smiled again. "Now let's get you to a shower. You smell like salt water and pain." Izuku chucked slightly and punched Kuro's arm playfully as they started for home. 5 months later, it was time for the exam. Izuku was feeling confident about the exam. He had been training diligently with All Might and Kuro and managed to get to 6% full cowl as Kuro had dubbed it. Kuro was equally shocked and proud at the young man's progress, saying that it wasn't normal for a wielder of One for All to make such progress. Whenever Izuku asked about how Kuro knew things like that, Kuro would just dodge the question and change the subject. Izuku may be imagining things, but it seems that Kuro hits a little bit harder during sparring sessions where Izuku brings up the man's knowledge of One for All. Izuku's musings were interrupted by a stray rock as he trips on it. He prepared himself for impact, but that impact never came. He opened his eyes and to his surprise, he was floating. "Release!" He heard a female voice before he fell, landing on his feet. "Phew, that was a close one. Are you okay there?" Izuku turned around to see the one thing he feared the most. A girl. Izuku's face instantly went red as he started to stammer. Why yeah. Thanks for saving me there." "No problem." The girl beamed, practically oozing positivity. "My name is Uraraka Achiko. What's yours?" "Relax, little man." Midoriya can hear Kuro's voice in his head. This was something Kuro had taught him along with training his body. How to help his social anxiety. Girls are people too. They're usually very nice. There's no reason to be scared of them. Izuku knew that it was at least partially a lie, if Aunt Mitsuki had anything to say about that. He took a deep breath and smiled. "I am Midoriya Izuku," he said, returning a smile. "It's a pleasure to meet you." Izuku was trying his best not to cover his ears. Present mixed speech on the exam was loud to say the least. Izuku could barely think, much less muse and mutter as he usually does. It was a blessing in disguise, though, as Uraraka had insisted on hanging with him because she didn't have any other friends. It wasn't that Izuku didn't like her company, as she was a great person. It's just that Izuku found it a miracle that he hasn't passed out yet after such prolonged contact with a girl. "All right, are you ready?" Present Mike shouted to the crowd of teenagers as a loud cheer could be heard from the examinees. "All right then, start." Meanwhile, the staff watched in a designated area to examine the kids. Nizu, All Might, Lady Midnight, Eraserhead, and a few others were there, examining the students dashed off. This Midoriya kid seems quite interesting," Nizu states as the screen focuses on Izuku, who seemed to be rescuing participants in danger as well and destroying the robots. "Do you think he knows about the rescue points?" "I don't think so," All Might states. "I see it in his eyes. That boy is saving those kids because he wants to." Of course it was complete bullshit, but All Might knew his successor. He would rather just save people, points be damned. Before anyone could say anything further, the door opened, revealing a tall, muscular man with black hair and black eyes. He wore a black, one-piece uniform and a neck guard. He was known as Black Lightning, the number 7 hero in Japan. "So, am I late?" Chapter 03 Children. Izuku looked at his letter with anticipation. He didn't know what the passing or failing score was, but he was nervous out of his mind. "Just open it, Izuku." His mother gently put a hand on his shoulder, an understanding smile forming on her lips. "I know you did great. They would be out of their minds not to take you." Izuku managed a shaky smile and opened the letter when a hologram formed in front of them. Izuku's face paled when he recognized who the person on the other side was. "Hey, little man!" Kuro's hologram flickered as he smirked. "Oh, hey Inko." "Kuro-sensei?" Izuku exclaimed. "You work at UA?" Kuro's hologram sighed. "You should probably keep whatever response you have down." He chuckled a little bit. "This is all pre-recorded. Chances are you just woke me from my well-deserved nap. I just know you too well enough to mess with you a little bit." Kuro made sure to emphasize, well-deserved. Izuku shivered, feeling like he would be in for a world of hurt later that day. "Anyways, you wanted to hear about the UA results, right?" Kuro smiled as the two leaned in anticipation. "You didn't pass." Izuku looked down, crestfallen. Before he could start moping, Kuro continued. "You set the record for UA's entrance exam. Sure, All Might may have had a higher score on the practical, but his written exam scores were horrible." Izuku looked up at the hologram in shock. He had scored higher than All Might? With 46 villain points and 86 rescue points, you scored a 132 on the practical exam, scoring just 23 points under All Might, leaving you in second place in the history of UA. Kuro said, the pride glimmering through the hologram. "Oh yeah, there was a secret part of the exam. Did you really think that the practical was just based off kicking the crap out of robots? Nah, saving people is a part of being a hero too. Good job, little man. I'm proud of you." Izuku jumped and cheered loudly as he heard the news. He had passed. He not only passed, but he would be cemented in history as the closest score to All Might till the current day. Oh, another thing. Kuro's hand was hovering towards a button just out of view before he stopped. "I ran into this girl while I was shopping the other day. What was her name? Rarara? Bah, I forgot. She saw us walking home together and asked me to thank you for saving her from that big, bad zero-pointer during the exam." Izuku's face turned beet red as his mother gave him a quizzical look. "A girl?" she asked teasingly. "Why didn't you say anything?" Mom," Izuku sputtered, looking at her with a betrayed look. It's not like that." "Relax, I'm just teasing," the Kuro hologram said. "But she really was thankful. You saved her when everyone else was too busy looking out for no one other than themselves. You really acted like a hero during the exams. I have no doubt in my mind that you will make a great hero. I'll be seeing you around. Your class is Class 1A. Don't forget it." With that, Kuro ended the transmission and left the Midoriyas to process the roller coaster that was Izuku's acceptance letter. Kai Chisaki, otherwise known as Overload, was sitting in his office, looking all menacing. He had it all: power, wealth, influence, even those newfangled Quirk erasing bullets. There was absolutely nothing that can go wrong at this point. Just as that thought flashed through his head, someone slammed his head on the table and slapped some Quirk nullifying handcuffs on him. "Kai Chisaki," the man said with a cold, authoritative tone. "For crimes that I'm too lazy to list off, you are under arrest." "How did you?" Chisaki started, but was stopped when the man grabbed him and jumped out of the window, landing in front of a police car. The man handed him to the cops, and he was put in the back of the police car. The man turned around and started walking back towards the building. "Black Lightning," one of the cops yelled after the man, now known to be the number 7 hero in Japan. "What are you doing now? We've already got Overload." "Me? Nothing much." The man let out a dry chuckle and stared at Chisaki with such malice. It caused the seasoned Yakuza to shudder. "I'm just going to adopt a child." Izuku was writing down a continuation on Kurojise, otherwise known as Black Lightning. Even though he was such a big shot, he was a complete enigma. No one knows the full capabilities of his quirk, other than he's fast, strong, and black electricity surrounds him when he activates it. He calls the quirk Black Lightning, but something seems off. Also, his knowledge about One for All. It made no sense. How could he figure something like that behind All Might's back? It just made no logical sense. A knock on the door made Izuku jump, breaking him out of his trance. He walked over to the door and opened it to see Kuro, but his quirk was activated, but only on his right leg. "Hey, little man," he greeted with a smile. "I wanted you to meet someone." "Huh?" Izuku asked, looking around, not seeing anyone. "Who is it?" "I don't see anyone." "She's a bit shy." Izuku paled at the dreaded word. "She? Come on, Eri. Izuku is a nice guy. I promise." Kuro looked down to his right leg, and Izuku followed his gaze to see a small, no, I'm not changing the spelling, girl hiding behind his right leg, looking very scared. Izuku's face regained its color knowing that Kuro wasn't trying to hook him up. I mean, Izuku would never put it past Kuro to invite a teenage girl for the sole reason of freaking his student out. He slowly knelt and looked at the girl with a soft, reassuring smile on his face. "Hello. My name is Midoriya Izuku." "What's your name?" Midoriya asked in the most calming voice he can muster. Kuro always taught him that reassuring people was a vital part in a hero's job. "Eri," Izuku made out. The girl was almost too quiet to hear. "Kuro Eri." "Yep. I adopted Eri earlier today." Kuro beamed at the young girl, patting her head. Eri looked as if she wasn't enjoying it, but she didn't smile, not even showing a hint of one. She's had a rough life for someone so young, and I think what she really needs is a loving family and supportive friends. Izuku looked into the girl's eyes and his heart shattered. He saw something he's been all too familiar with in that poor little girl's eyes. Despair and hopelessness filled her big, red eyes. He tried to hide his pity and showed a friendly smile. "Of course," he said, smiling at the young girl. "I would love to be Eri's friend." Chapter 04. Cry for Help. Izuku stared at the huge entrance to UA High and gulped. He was going to such a prestigious school with people like Black Lightning, Eraserhead, and freaking All Might working as part of the staff. Just a year ago, it seemed like a pipe dream for him to even be considered, and now he was one of the most promising students, according to what Kuro had told him. Izuku pinched himself, trying to convince himself that it was a dream. Fortunately, he didn't wake up. Izuku jumped when a firm hand grasped his shoulder. He turned around to see Kuro in an uncharacteristically bright gray suit with matching pants, a white dress shirt, and a green tie. He had Eri on his shoulders, supporting her with his other hand. "Don't worry, little man," Kuro reassured him. "As long as you don't freeze up on the girls in your class, you'll be fine." "Thanks, sensei," Izuku said dryly. He didn't understand why Kuro teased him so much about girls, but Kuro seemed to enjoy it, so Izuku didn't ask. Gee, good luck, Aizu and I, Eri muttered, firmly wrapping her arms around Kuro's forehead. In the couple months between Eri's adoption and the first day of school, Eri had improved when it came to talking to Izuku, but he hasn't seen the small girl smile yet, which uneased the young man. He doesn't know why the little girl won't smile, but it deeply concerned him. She is still barely able to talk to strangers, but it isn't impossible for her to make friends. With the gentle encouragement of Izuku and Kuro, she was able to meet Inko, and Eri has seemed to take a liking to her. Kuro has also been helping Eri with her quirk, whatever it was. Kuro claims she doesn't have much control over it, but he managed to help her to suppress its random outbursts unless she was put under a lot of stress. Thanks, Eri-chan. Izuku smiled softly at the girl. I'll become the best hero in the world. Just you watch me. Well, you should probably get to class, Hiro-kun, Kuro said with a teasing tone and a smile on his face. Today is Lil Eri's first day of school, and I have to go meet her teacher. I'll be at UA by the time school starts. I'll see you at lunch, little man. Izuku nodded and Kuro held his fist out. Izuku held out his as well, and the two Izukus bumped fists before Kuro turned around and walked away. Izuku looked back at the huge school and took his first step towards heroism. Kuro found his way to the elementary school as Eri moved from his shoulders and snuggled up to him as he held her gingerly in his arms. In all honesty, Kuro was scared. He knew Eri had to learn how to talk to people, but he was kind of a doting father and he doesn't like seeing Eri stressed or anxious. Room 3, Kuro muttered to himself as he scanned the doors, looking for the room, until he saw the number 3 plastered on the door right in front of him. Giving Eri a reassuring smile, the pro hero knocked on the door. He was aware he was about 45 minutes early, but he wanted to make sure whatever teacher she had knew about her situation, and so he can get a feel for the teacher. If the teacher was one of those morons who doesn't care for their students, Kuro would pull out within the week. Kuro concealed his shock surprising well as the door opened, revealing a young woman with white hair, streaks of red littering her snow-white hair. Kuro remembers Shoto's older sister Fuyumi all too well. Fuyumi was the one to take care of all the kids during the war, and was an emotional pillar to all of the heroes. Well, that was until Shigaraki decided to target the next generation. Hello, miss. Kuro smiled softly at the young teacher. My name is Kuro Jisei, and I'm here for my student here, Kuro Eri. Ah, it's nice to meet you. Fuyumi's sweet smile filled Kuro with nostalgia of times when he, Shoto, and Fuyumi would sit together and have soba. It was one of the few happy times in a bleak and desolate war. My name is Todoroki Fuyumi, and Eri-chan is on our roster. Is there anything I should know about Eri beforehand? Yes, actually. Kuro took an envelope out of his pocket and handed it to her. This covers things in a bit more detail, but little Eri here has quite a hard life. She has trouble speaking with people. Just please, be patient with her. Of course, Kuro-san. Relief washed over Kuro's face. He knew he could trust Fuyumi. She was great with children. I'll be sure to try my best to do what I can for Eri-chan. Kuro set Eri down and looked at her, smiling. Hey Eri-chan. I know school's going to be hard, but you have a good sensei here. He comforted the girl, who didn't necessarily look scared, but it was obvious that she was anxious. If anything bad happens, remember the watch. Okay? I'll be there in a flash. Eri nods at the man before giving him as big of a hug her tiny arms could manage. Kuro hugged back, repressing his inner doting father as to not embarrass himself. As he stood up, he looked Fuyumi in the eye. Fuyumi slightly stiffened as she tried to read the emotions shining in his eyes. Was that concern? No, it must be a trick of the light. Hey, Todoroki-san. The tall man started, pausing to think. Are you all right? Yes. Fuyumi answered, thoroughly confused. Why do you ask? Oh, nothing. Kuro smiled softly as he could almost hear the gears turn in the young woman's head. I'm a hero. It's my job to be concerned. That's all. With that, He put his hand on Eri's head and walked off. Deku-kun. Uraraka bounded over to Izuku as soon as she opened the door. She unfortunately discovered the nickname as Kaken was badmouthing the young man. I never got to ask. How do you know Black Lightning-san? I saw you two walking home with each other after the exam. Izuku's face instantly turned into a tomato as the girl got dangerously close to him. His apartment is right next to mine. Really? A red-haired boy walked up to the two, a huge grin on his face. That's so manly. How's it like? He's really cool. He's always been like the cool uncle I've never had. Izuku looked at the boy to distract himself from Uraraka. My name is Midoriya Izuku. What's yours? I'm Ejiru Kirishima. The two boys shook hands. It's really nice to meet you. As the two shook hands, the door slammed open as an all-too-familiar blonde stormed up to Izuku. Oi, shitty Deku, he shouted at the top of his lungs as he got right up in Izuku's face. How did you get a higher score than me? Before Izuku could open his mouth, a tall boy with glasses approached Kaken and held out his hand as a gesture to get him to stop. Excuse me, sir, he started. This isn't how you should be acting towards a fellow classmate. Shut the fuck up, shitty four eyes. As Kaken yelled to start a tirade, the door opened as the students feel an intimidating aura, instantly silencing the room. You're here to learn to be heroes, not to socialize and make friends. A ragged man with a weird scarf walked into the classroom and stood at the podium. I'm Aizawa Shoyuta, your homeroom teacher. Meet me at the P area in 10 minutes. Kuro wandered his way into the P field at UA High School. He was excited to see Izuku's result. Why? No particular reason. He was just curious to see how much he's improved versus his past self. Kuro was muttering calculations to predict how far the ball would go. Kuro-san, what are you doing here? Shuta's voice snapped Kuro out of his muttering trance. Shouldn't be doing your job? I am doing my job, Aizawa-kun. Kuro beamed internally as he watched Shuta's face twist in annoyance. I need to make sure you don't kill anyone on your first day. Kuro snickered as Shoyuta huffed and several of the students paled. Relax, kiddies, Kuro said, barely containing his laughter. He knew all these teenagers as battle-hardened heroes, jumping into combat with hundreds of nomas with the determination of an army. Not young men and women scared shitless by their teacher. Aizawa-kun won't kill anyone. I hope. I'm just here to see the next generation of heroes. You'll be sure to keep the kiddies alive, right? Shoyuta grunted and turned around to continue his assessment. Now we'll be doing the ball throw test. You will use your quirk to throw the ball as far as you can. Katsuki-kun, can you please go first? Fine, shitty teacher, Kaken muttered under his breath. Thankfully, Shoyuta couldn't hear it, but Kuro learned a few years back that concentrating one for all into his ears can give him super hearing. He never found use for such a thing during the war, but it was very useful for doing hero work, so Kuro almost always had it activated. A plus is that he could hear whenever Eri is in trouble, giving Kuro's doting father side a reason to listen out for things. Die! Kaken threw the ball, causing an explosion to push the ball even further. The ball flew with a smoke trail and landed somewhere in the forest. 703 meters, Shoyuta stated plainly as he then looked to Kuro. Since you're here, make yourself useful and go get the ball. Kuro grumbled something under his breath and zipped off in a burst of black lightning, returning a second later with the ball in hand, perfectly undamaged. As the other students went as their names were selected to throw the ball, Kuro spaced out, thinking about the war. As Kaminari went, he remembered the blonde hero emitting a huge wave of electricity in the center of an army of nomas, knowing that his brain would be too fried to escape. As Hagakure went, he could almost hear a pained shriek and see a concrete hallway fill with blue fire. Midoriya Izuku, Kuro almost responded before realizing that Shoyuta was talking about his past self. Kuro let out a shaky breath and shook his head, trying to rid his head of his bad thoughts. Excuse me, Black Lightning-san? Kuro almost jumped as he heard someone speak his hero name. He turned around 13 to see Yaoyorozu Momo looking up at him, a shy look on her face. Are you all right? Kuro smiled at the young woman, remembering how kind she always had been, even during the bleakness of war. Don't worry about me. Just thinking, Kuro said softly. May I ask your name? Yaoyorozu Momo, Momo said softly. It's a pleasure to meet you, Black Lightning-san. Please, just call me Kuro. Kuro turned back to his younger self, smiling. Pleasure's all mine. To Kuro's surprise, instead of throwing the ball, Izuku dropped the ball and kicked it with all his might, the green electricity filling his body. A loud boom could be heard as the ball broke the sound barrier and flew out of sight. 1358 meters, Shoyuta said, expertly concealing his shock. No one had sent the ball that far since All Might. As the tests continued and concluded, the flashbacks continued to haunt Kuro, but he was able to hide his emotions. He looked at the board with the results, and all his negative emotions were washed away as his eyes set on the top score. First place, Midoriya Izuku. Kuro smiled to himself. Perhaps there was hope for the future. No, not perhaps. This future will be saved. These kids will grow up safe and happy. Kuro vowed to himself, looking longingly at the students chattering excitedly. I will make it happen, if it's the last thing I do. Chapter 5, Prepare. Katsuki Bakugo was your name, right? Kacchan thought back to what happened up to this point. Out of absolute nowhere, one of his idols, Black Lightning, a hero that he only puts All Might above, just approaches him out of nowhere. No prompting, no warning, nothing. Yeah, Kacchan said, nervous. He knew when not to be a prick, and now was one of those times. Is there something you need? Yeah, just wanted to talk, Black Lightning said nonchalantly, as if approaching random students at lunch was a thing he did on a normal basis. Wanna eat at my office? I won't take up too much of your time. Kacchan nodded and followed Black Lightning to his office. What he saw when he stepped in was interesting to say the least. The table was completely empty, but that was probably the only orderly thing in the office. A large corkboard was on the wall, filled to the brim with messy papers and sticky notes. Papers were scattered all throughout the floor and Black Lightning's desk. Make yourself at home. Black Lightning's deep, yet relaxed voice brought Kacchan's focus back to him. He put the meal the hag made for him on the coffee table and started to unpack and prepared to eat. You know that kid you dubbed affectionately as Shitty Deku is my neighbor, right? Kacchan looked like he was about to spit out food he didn't even start eating yet. Why would you tell me that? Kacchan shouted. He knew when to keep his cool, but when someone brought up that shitty fucking Deku, he knew it was not the time to be chill. I've heard a lot from Izuku-in, Black Lightning said simply. I would like to talk about your relationship with the boy. What do you want to know? Kacchan yelled at him, still apoplectic. He's a good-for-nothing piece of shit. Do you know why he was able to beat you in both the exam and the assessment? Kacchan froze. He was right. That stupid quirkless Deku had beaten him in both the exam and the quirk assessment. It made absolutely no sense. Of course he did manifest his quirk a little bit late. That's not the point here. The point is his attitude. You see he dash. So fucking what about his attitude? Kacchan was done with this nonsense. He was done with people praising shitty Deku when he apparently had just gotten some stupid quirk. It doesn't mean shit. He shouldn't be better than me. Black Lightning's stone-cold look made Kacchan stop his tirade. Look, you're strong. No one's gonna deny that, he started, his voice deadly calm. But Izuku has something you don't. Someone to look up to. A goal to achieve. Not like All Might. He is an amazing role model, but Izuku had something else. Someone his age to look up to. He had a rival. Izuku wouldn't have been half as motivated to get stronger if it wasn't for his rival figure. And that person, Bakugo-kun, is you. Kacchan was floored by this. He was one of the reasons that Deku became stronger? Again, it made no sense. Kacchan treated Izuku like shit. And that just made him stronger? Now, I'm not here to sing Izukuin's praises and piss you off, Black Lightning continued when he noticed Kakin hadn't started talking yet. I'm here to advise you to do the same. I know that you don't necessarily like Izuku, but if you just bully him and do nothing about the fact that he's getting stronger, you'll never become half the hero he will. You gotta keep up, man. Don't take this shit lying down. Keep training. You two can make each other stronger. Becoming a hero isn't about you, and it isn't about him. It's about saving people, and if you have to tolerate someone you don't like to become stronger and better and saving those people, then that's what you gotta do. Black Lightning stood up and walked up to Kakin and put his hand on his shoulder. Katsuki Bakugo, you're destined for great things. You have so much potential, but your mind is closed off. You can only achieve so much without opening up and allowing others to help you. As a hero, you'll never be alone. Black Lightning took his hand off Kakin's shoulder and walked to the door before pausing. Think about what I've told you today. If you need any sort of help, please reach out. I'll help you in any way I can. Aizawa Shoyuta was having a rough week. Along with having a bunch of problem children, he had Kuro Jisei constantly shadowing his class. He didn't know why Kuro was so interested in him and his class, but it was really annoying. He would be there before class, laughing and chatting with the students, pulling out random students during class, and sometimes even randomly walk into the class and sit in, ruthlessly teasing the teacher as he tried to do his job. Shoyuta flopped on his bed. It was around 9 p.m., 4 hours until he had to start patrolling as Eraserhead. He decided to check his phone once before taking a nap. He was already tired out from his day job, and he just wanted a nap. Shoyuta opened his phone and checked his emails. It was mostly junk, but there might be something important there. After a few minutes of checking his email, he landed on a particularly interesting one. He tapped on it and started reading. To Eraserhead, All Might, Tashinori Yagi, Recovery Girl, Nizu, Gran Torino, Sir Night Eye 13, Maruko, Edgeshot, Hawks, Kamui Woods, and Best Genist. From offeralsaphodrules@heromail.com. Subject: Vital info, please read. Name: Shigaraki Tamura. Affiliation: League of Villains. Quirk: Decay. When Shigaraki places all 5 fingers of a hand onto a target, the target starts to decay, eventually leaving nothing but ashes. Targets can be both living and non-living. Name: Kurogyri. Affiliation: League of Villains. Quirk: Warp Gate. Kurogyri can make portals of varying size and quantity to any space he has either been to or can visually see at the moment of creation. Name: Nomu. Affiliation: League of Villains. Quirks: Shock Absorption, Super Regenerations. You all are smart, you could figure them out. Very important info. Nomu is not a human anymore. He died painfully as soon as the second quirk was injected into him. Recommended kill on sight. Weak spot is the brain. Between entries, there were incredibly detailed sketches of the 3 villains described. Shoyuta read the email a couple times over as several questions popped up in his head. First of all, if such important info was being distributed to such high-ranking heroes, why weren't Endeavor and Black Lightning not included? Also, why would this person stay anonymous? Who were they and what did they want? How would they have this info? Shoyuta sighed as he turned off his phone. Today has been too eventful. He was done. It was time for bed. Kuro sighed as he looked at the to-do list that he had made himself. He checked out, send info of USJ invaders, and looked at the next one. Talk to Shoto. God damn it. This was going to be a very delicate situation, but he had to do it. Enji needed to be put in his place. The domestic abuse needed to stop. He sighed one more time before he stepped into Class 1A. What do you want? Kuro was greeted with the beautiful music known as Shuta's grumbling. We've been over this. I just need to borrow Tadukuin for a moment, Kuro said cheerfully, knowing the topic he was going to talk to him about would be anything but, Todoroki, can you please come with me for a few minutes? Shoto nodded wordlessly and exited the room with Kuro, following him to his messy office. Your sister speaks highly about you, you know? Shoto froze. Why would he be bringing this up? Did this have something to do with that terrible man that barely had the right to call Shoto his father? What do you want? Shoto's voice came out aggressive as the room literally dropped in temperature. Did my old man set you up to this? Well, I agree this is about your father. He did not set me up to this. Kuro sat down on his desk and returned Shoto's gaze. I want to get him arrested. Arrested? Shoto's deadly gaze softened as he tried to wrap his head around the situation. Why would you want to get a coworker arrested? I couldn't give two shits about Enji. Kuro sighed and massaged his temples. Your father is a piece of shit for treating you and your siblings like that, and I owe Fuyumi one for treating my daughter so well. Did she tell you about this? Shoto asked warily. He didn't want someone he barely knew to step into family matters. But part of his was screaming for help. He hated Endeavor and he wanted him to stop torturing his family. No, she didn't. You'd be surprised how much a few shots of whiskey can get out of someone. Kuro smirked. It was complete bullshit, but he was honest about Fuyumi. She already had enough shit going on, and he didn't want to use her as a way to get into this mess. She doesn't even know what I'm planning. What do you need me to do? Shoto asked, cutting right to the chase. He didn't care how Kuro knew. He just wanted his father put to justice. Get a written report from each of your siblings about what Enji has been doing to you guys and hand it in to me whenever you can, and I'll do the rest, Kuro said. Also make sure Fuyumi doesn't find out it's me behind this whole operation. Poor girl already has enough on her mind. Eri-chan can be quite the handful. Shoto nodded and Kuro smiled and stood up, putting his hand on Shoto's shoulder. You're a good kid, Todoroki-kun, he started. I can tell you're going to go places. Not for him, but for you. Just know that here you have friends. Your classmates care about you, and they would curse Endeavor's name if they knew what he did to you. You don't have to go through this alone. We're all here for Y-. Kuro was cut off by the alarms. He muttered something under his breath and looked at the young man. Go to your class, Todoroki-kun. Standard evacuation procedures. Kuro started to walk off. I have a meeting to get to. Everything was according to plan. Shigaraki Tamura and Kurojairi walked through the empty hallways, looking through each room to find the databases of UA High. The press has caught everybody's attention, and now they had the chance they need to swipe the info on where All Might would be the next day. As they turned a corner to another room, he saw something being tossed towards him. A pen drive? Shigaraki caught it and looked to where it had been thrown from. To his horror, he saw Black Lightning standing there, leaning on a wall with his arms and legs crossed. I'm not here to arrest you, Black Lightning stated, the fury present in his calm tone. The info you're looking for is in there. Why are you helping us? Shigaraki asked warily. Aren't you supposed to be a hero? Please, you would have gotten the info anyways. Let's not kid ourselves here. Shimura-kun. Shivers went down Shigaraki's spine as he heard his birth name. I'm here to warn you. If you're going to go through with that plan, you will fail. We will kick your asses to Kingdom Come. Good to know, Shigaraki stated, scratching his neck. I'll turn you all to dust then. With that, Kurojairi created a portal and teleported the two away. Kuro sighed and zipped away to meet the others. Shigaraki appeared in the next room over, heaving a sigh. Like hell he was going to trust the info a hero gave him. He and Kurojairi continued their search, eventually getting the info they needed. While they were there, they decided to use the computer to check what was on the drive Black Lightning gave them. If it was a virus, UA would be the one to suffer. To their surprise, it was actually the info they wanted, where All Might would be the next day. Shigaraki huffed as he ordered Kurojairi to take them back to their hideout. Izuku Midoriya was anxious. He had a field trip today, but he didn't know where or what they would be doing. He was happy to have friends now, but also perplexed as Kaken didn't seem to bully him as much. It was still there, but Kaken wouldn't rag on his nearly as much as usual. Uraraka, as bright and cheery as ever, didn't really know the meaning of personal space, causing Izuku to almost faint whenever she would give him a hug. Kirishima also proved to be a great friend as well as he, Midoriya, Kaminari, and Shiro would often go to the arcade together after school. Izuku was on friendly terms with almost all of his classmates. All of them except Kaken, for obvious reasons, and Todoroki Shoto. He didn't know why he couldn't approach the young man, but he was always so quiet and cut off from reality. Izuku couldn't seem to talk to him at all, no matter how much he tried. A tap on the shoulder made him jump and yelp. A tick appeared on his forehead as he heard Kuro's loud, booming laughter from behind him. "What do you want, Kuro-sensei?" As he turned around, Kuro's face became serious. It was unsettling. Kuro was almost always this easygoing and relaxed man. Seriousness didn't fit with him. "Take this, Izuku," Kuro said, handing him a wristwatch. "See that red button on it? If things go wrong, press it. I'll be there in a flash." Izuku nodded, and Kuro's door opened, revealing an adorable Eri with her hands on the straps on her backpack. Her usual shy face replaced with a look of determination and will. Kuro beamed as he picked up the young girl, her determined face morphing into shock as she whined in protest. "Dad, I'm big now. You don't have to carry me to school anymore." "Just because I can't doesn't mean I won't, little lady," Kuro smiled at the girl. "Now let's get you two to school. After all, the both of you have a big day ahead." Chapter 06 USJ. Deku-kun. As soon as Izuku opened the door, he was greeted with Uraraka flying over to him using her quirk, quickly wrapping her arms around him. "Are you excited for the field trip?" Uraraka-san. Too close," Izuku sputtered, his face tomato red and his arms flailing wildly. "Ah, I see my little man already has gotten himself a girlfriend," Kuro mused, stepping into the room, patting Izuku on the back. "I knew you were attractive, but I didn't think you'd be such a lady killer, Izuku-kun." At those words, Uraraka instantly slid back several feet, her face just as red as Izuku's. "Kuro-san. It's not like that." "No need to be shy, children," Kuro snickered. "I'm sure you and Inko would get along swimmingly." "What are you doing here anyways, Kuro-sensei?" Izuku asked the older man. "Don't you have like security stuff to be doing?" "Oh yeah, I'm chaperoning your little field trip," Kuro said. Apparently an outside source warned Nizu to be on the safer side with this field trip. There's a chance something might happen. Even if it's low, UA doesn't want to take any risks. "Ah," Izuku said to himself as Tenya Ida walked into the classroom. He instantly noticed Kuro and Brisk walked over and bowed. "It's a pleasure to see you again, Black Lightning-san," Ida practically shouted. "May I ask what reason you are visiting today?" "For the last time, Tenya-kun. Call me Kuro," Kuro said softly. "Also, I'm going to be coming with you on your field trip and make sure everything goes fine." Before Ida could continue, Kuro walked over to Momo, who was shifting uncomfortably in her seat. "Nervous, Yaoyorozu-chan?" "Ah." Momo looked up at Kuro. "Just a little bit." "Don't sweat it," Kuro smiled softly at the girl. "You're a very capable young woman. Whatever happens, I'm sure you can deal with it." Thanks." Momo blushed slightly at the praise. A lot of the WANA students were still getting used to such a high-ranking hero popping in and talking so casually with them. It seemed surreal to the teenagers. Even more so than All Might because he was always out and about. Kuro always seemed to be open and free to talk to the students, constantly dropping by to say hi and to check in on the students. Kuro then turned to see Shoto handing him an envelope. "Here's what you asked for, Kuro-san." Kuro took the envelope before zipping off and returning within a second, the envelope nowhere in sight. "Thanks, Shoto. I'll see that this gets processed immediately." For the first time ever, Izuku saw Shoto smile, even if it was only the faintest bit. Izuku was perplexed at Kuro's charisma, being able to strike up a conversation and work things out seemingly out of nowhere. "Hey, Kuro-san," Kirishima called the hero over. "I challenge you again." Kuro smirked and walked over and knelt down, clasping his hand with Kirishima's. The entire class crowded around as Kirishima and Kuro engaged in their daily arm wrestle. After a couple seconds of struggling, Kuro slammed Kirishima's fist on the table. You've been improving, Kirishima-kun, Kuro said happily. Maybe someday you'll actually beat me. You bet, Kirishima whooped. Kuro then turned to Jiro and handed her a few sheets of paper. Jiro-chan, your old man told me you played bass. We still jam every now and then. Kuro smiled at the girl. Here are a few tabs that I thought you would be interested in. Thank you, Kuro-san, Jiro mumbled, neatly putting the music in her backpack. Before Kuro could talk to anyone else, Shoyuta walked into the room. All right, we're going to be doing rescue training at USJ today. The buses are already in the lot. Be out there in 5 minutes. The kids excitedly filed out of the classroom and Kuro snickered as he felt Shuta's glare on him. Nay, Kuro-san, Ashido Mina said, getting Kuro's attention from the paper he was writing on. Kuro opted to sit with the kids rather than Shoyuta. What's it like being so popular? Terrible, Kuro replied honestly, and the small group of students chuckled. The group consisted of Izuku, Uraraka, Tsuyu, Yamamo, Kirishima, Kaminari, Mina, and Hagakure. Sometimes, I'm just trying to live my life. Then the press comes swooping in, begging me for interviews. Hey, Deku-kun! Uraraka poked Izuku's cheek to get his attention, causing the broccoli boy to turn red. Why do you call Kuro-san sensei? Oh, you didn't know? Izuku asked honestly. My quirk manifested late and Kuro taught me how to control and utilize my quirk. That's so manly, Kirishima exclaimed. Hey, do you think we can all get lessons like that? Wouldn't that be too much? Momo asked the boy. He's already really busy and dash. Nonsense, Kuro boomed. I'd be willing to help any of you, but my lessons are really tough. I'll make you wish you didn't ask. So manly, Kirishima exclaimed again. My body is ready. The group laughed at that statement as the buses stopped. All right, let's get to it. We don't want to be late for 13-san, Shoyuta said, and the students filed out into the buses and into the unforeseen stimulation joint. 13 was already there to greet them. Kuro and Shoyuta walked over to stand on either side of them as 13 started their speech. Today, you will be learning to use your quirks for the sake of saving lives, 13 started. Quirks are very versatile and can be used in many different ways, but as heroes, our main priority is saving the lives of the people. Today, you will be coming up with ways to use your quirk to adapt to various situations. We will split you up into groups and you will be tasked with finding ways to save certain targets. As if on cue, as soon as 13 finished their introduction, a warp gate opened and about 100 villains stepped out, led by Shigaraki, Kurojirim, and Nomu. Villains, Shoyuta yelled as he got into a fighting stance. 13, protect the students. Black Lightning with me. Tenyukuen, go warn Nizu that villains are attacking USJ. They likely jammed our signal so we can't call for backup, Kuro ordered. When Ida hesitated, he continued. We'll cover you. You're the only one who can do this. Now go. Sucks that All Might isn't here, Shigaraki said, scratching his neck. I wonder if he will come if we killed the kids. Not on my watch. Kuro appeared in front of Shigaraki and kicked him in the face, sending him flying. He dashed for Kurojiri, but a portal appeared in front of him. Another portal opened up in the sky a couple kilometers away, and a loud crash followed by a huge cloud of dust could be seen. Shoyuta dashed in, jumping into the middle of the small army, his goggles on. He punched and kicked his way through many of the small fries in a deadly dance of attacks. 13 huddles the students and tries to get them to follow Ida, but Kurojiri opens a gate and steps in front of them. We are the League of Villains, Kurojiri starts, and we're here to kill All Might. Before any of the students could do anything rash, 13 points their finger at Kurojiri and opens their black hole. As Kurojiri opens 2 portals to use 13's quirk against them, Kuro dashes in and grabs 13, manually closing their finger before setting them down. With the kids unguarded, Kurojiri takes the opportunity to open various portals to scatter the children. Izuku and Tsuyu fall into the flood zone, landing on a cruise ship. One of the villains jumps up and tries to bite off Tsuyu's top half, but Izuku rushes in and punches the villain, sending him flying back into the water. "Thank you, Midoriya-kun," Tsuyu says shyly to the boy. "What do you think we should do, Karo? We don't know their quirks or how many of them there are, but I would think that they would be underestimating us." Izuku started. "What is your quirk? We need to come up with a plan to get out of here." "My quirk gives me the properties of a frog, Karo," Tsuyu explains. "I can jump really far and my tongue is really long and can grab onto things." Izuku mutters a little bit, and then he has a revelation. "Tsuyu-san, can you grab me with your tongue and jump as far as you can? I can use the air pressure from my quirk to get us to fly higher." Tsuyu pauses and thinks before nodding. Tsuyu wraps her tongue around Izuku and jumps. By the looks of it, they can only make it halfway there. Izuku mutters for a bit until a shark-faced villain leaps out at them. Without thinking, Izuku channels as much of his quirk as he can into his arm and punches the villain. The sheer amount of power and recoil launches the two into the air and sends them flying much farther than they needed to go. Izuku winces in pain as he realizes his right arm is completely busted. Shoyuta finishes the last small fry villain before staring down Shigaraki Tamura. "You must be the leader, huh?" "I guess you can say that," Shigaraki says as Shoyuta charges him with his scarf. Shigaraki grabs the scarf, decaying a good chunk of it. "Nomu!" A hulking monstrosity appears behind Shoyuta, about to throw a devastating punch before being hit by a flash of black lightning. "Your opponent is me, you fucking monstrosity." Kuro growls deeply as the Nomu stands up. Kuro and Nomu rush each other, engaging in a furious flurry of punches before Kuro kicks Nomu in the face, sending him flying. Kuro then jumps up in the air and floats. He then smashes the Nomu to the floor and rocks down, punching the huge beast right where the brain is, crushing it before throwing it out the window. "Damn, that was a failure, huh?" Shigaraki mumbles as he places his hand on Shuta's shoulder, managing to decay the shoulder a little bit before being kicked away. "Kurogyri, we're leaving." Shigaraki jumps away as Kurogyri appears behind them. "No!" Shoyuta shouts, leaping at them, but it was too late. Kurogyri opens a warp gate, and the two vanish, closing the gate behind them. Almost instantly after they vanish, the window breaks as the number 1 hero jumps into the scene. "I am here," he shouts before looking around, confused. "Where are the villains?" Kuro walks over to the 2 hero, bruises along his face and arms. "We dealt with them. They got away right before you got here." All Might's smile wavers but stays strong. At least the situation was handled. As more heroes and the police appeared, they started checking for injuries. Almost everyone was uninjured, save for Midoriya's arm and Shuta's shoulder. At the sight of Midoriya's arm, Kuro walked up to him and swatted his head. "You idiot!" Kuro exclaimed angrily. "I told you not to go 100%. Now look what happened." Tsuyu walked up to the two meekly and spoke up before Izuku could say anything. "Keikoro-san, Midoriya-san saved me," she said meekly. "If it weren't for him, I'm not sure if I would be here." Kuro's expression softened as he smiled down at the boy. "I'm sorry, little man. I didn't know that." He put a bruised hand on Izuku's head, ignoring his moans of protest. "I'm proud of you. Now get yourself to Recovery Girl and pray that there isn't any permanent damage." As Kuro walks away to go check on the other students, All Might looks at him suspiciously. He overheard their conversation and something was off. How did he know about Izuku's quirk drawing back like that? He has never been injured like that before, and by all means, he shouldn't know that his body isn't used to his quirk yet. Something was definitely off, and All Might was ready to find out what. Chapter 07 Extinguished Flames. Todoroki Enji almost set the court papers who received in the mail that day. It claimed that he was being sued for illegal quirk marriage, child abuse, child neglect, domestic abuse, and multiple other crimes. What crimes could Enji be accused of? He was just raising his kids how he saw fit. Apparently the stick up his ass went so far, he didn't even realize what was wrong with him. He stormed in each of his kids' rooms, demanding to know if they had anything to do with it. Fuyumi and Natsuo were absolutely floored while Shoto just responded no in his normal monotone voice. Enji was throwing a hissy fit in the training room, fire dancing around the room. Out of all the stuff he's dealt with, he's never been sued. Little did he know, he was digging his own grave by throwing a hissy fit instead of gathering evidence, if there was any, to prove his innocence. Kuro sighed as he entered an alleyway. He wasn't well versed in the workings of villains, but he knew that alleyways were a great center of crime. He checked his journal and looked up. Around this time, Dabi and Toga should have teamed up by now. A plan started to formulate in his head as Kuro slipped his journal in one of his abnormally large pockets. He came in his civilian clothes instead of his hero costume as a gesture that he only wanted to talk and not to fight. Since he didn't wear a mask, he was just as recognizable. But Kuro had his ways of traveling under the darkness of night. Kuro dug into his pockets and peeled out a switchblade. He made a cut on his arm and rolled up his sleeve before dashing through the elaborate maze of alleyways. His goal was to get Toga to catch his scent and give chase, because at this point in time, wherever she went, Dabi probably followed. Sure enough, a couple minutes in, he saw a blonde figure rushing towards him. He figured that since there still wasn't much info on him to go around, Toga wouldn't know anyone actually close to Kuro. She wouldn't bother with a disguise. As far as the public was concerned, Kuro saw every other hero as just a colleague. Kuro held out his right hand and a shield materialized, strapping itself onto his wrist. He held out the shield and blocked Toga's attack before thrusting his left hand towards her, a black tendril extending and incapacitating the young girl. Kuro then jumped over her, spinning and landing in front of Toga, holding up his shield just in time to block a torrent of blue fire. "Ah, Dabi," Kuro said in a mock gleeful tone as the scarred man paced into the light. "As much as I want to arrest you two right on the spot, I have rather important business to talk about with you." "What would a hero like you want with a villain like me?" Dabi sneered. "I have half a mind to incinerate you right now and leave with my partner." "You're right. I'm not here to make business with the villain codenamed Dabi," Kuro smirked, lowering his shield. "I'm here to make business with Todoroki Tuya, son of Todoroki Enju." "How the fuck do you know my name?" Dabi screamed, a torrent of blue flames soaring towards the hero. Kuro simply held up his shield again, blocking the flames. "Relax, dude. I'm not here to blackmail you or anything," Kuro said, the calmness in his voice not wavering. "I need your help in getting your father behind bars." Behind bars? Dabi stopped his attack as he tried to process the information. Why was a hero trying to arrest another hero? It doesn't make all too much sense. Why would you want that? "To be completely honest, your dad is a prick," Kuro sighed, ignoring Toga's squirming and comments about his blood. "Look, man, what he did was fucked up and I want to give you a second chance. I'll give you and your partner here a chance to walk free once again. We'll put your shitty father behind bars. I'll pull some strings and create some new identities for you two, and I'll personally meet any demands that I can." "Sound like a deal?" "What makes you think that you can trust us?" Dabi sneered. "We'll just turn around and stab you in the back as soon as we receive our compensation." "Simple," Kuro stated. "I don't believe you two are bad people. Just two misunderstood misfits of society backed into a corner and forced to take desperate measures. If you try to stab me in the back, so be it. I'll deal with that when the time comes, but I want to trust you too. I want to believe that people can change for the better, and so I will. Until proven otherwise, I choose to gamble and place my trust in two A-ranked villains." Dabi stepped back, a shocked expression on his face. He took a couple moments, considering his options. "I'm in," he decided. "But don't think we're going to be all buddy-buddy after this whole fiasco blows over." "Perfect." A gleeful smile formed on the bulky hero's face. "Here's what we are going to do." Enji opened the doors to the courtroom, a huge scowl on his face. He knew his kids were going to be there because of the charges brought up, but he was confident that they would speak in his favor. Again, the stick up his ass was so unbelievably far that he didn't notice what he did wrong. As he turned a corner, he was shocked to see that the number 7 hero, Kuro Jisei, otherwise known as Black Lightning, was standing there, taking a sip from a water fountain. Black Lightning, Enji exclaimed in shock. What are you doing here? Isn't it obvious, Enji-kun? Kuro practically spat out Enji's name. I'm suing you. What the fuck? Enji raised a fist to attack the hero, still bent over, calmly taking a drink. Why the fuck are you doing this? At that, Kuro stood up, now becoming eye level with Enji. You shouldn't attack people in court. It'll hurt your case, he said seriously as his gaze bore into Enji. Did you really think I would let the abuse of one of my students and the teacher of my daughter continue if I could do something about it? When Enji paused, Kuro took it as a cue to continue. Oh wait, you didn't? He sneered, every word filled with as much venom as the sludge villain who almost took his life all those years ago. After all, what do you know about family? The flames of Enji's facial hair intensified as anger boiled up. Kuro, however, appeared to be perfectly calm about the situation. See you in court, Enji, he muttered softly as he walked away. The sound of wood smashing on wood rang throughout the courthouse, marking the beginning of the session. Court is now in session, a familiar bald judge with an absolutely scrumptious beard announced. We will now hear the defendant's case. Enji's lawyer stood up and started to talk about how Enji was just raising his kids the way he saw fit as Enji narrowed his eyes at his opponent. Kuro apparently didn't even care to bring a lawyer. Either the man was so confident in his evidence and speaking abilities to win without one, or he was a lawyer himself. Considering how much time hero work takes up, Enji theorized that the first case was more likely. He scoffed, internally mocking the man for his astronomical amounts of pride. If I may, Your Honor, Kuro raised his hand. I do have video evidence of crimes accused. Very well, the judge said. Let's see it. Kuro smiled as he handed the judge a pen drive, full of years' worth of domestic abuse and child neglect. The entire court gasped as the footage was played. One would think Kuro sat on his ass and did nothing for 8 years, but he wasn't. He was compiling evidence to use against Enji. You fucker, Enji yelled, standing up and placing his hands on the desk. Did you put cameras in my house? How did you get that footage? Actually, it was me. Enji paled as a familiar voice spoke up. A man with spiky red hair walked over to the podium where the witnesses were to speak. Your Honor, since we were about to get into the witnesses' accounts, may I start my account? Oh, of course, the judge stammered. Technically, it wasn't against any rules for the man to speak up when he did. For all he knew, he was just defending the truth. Todoroki Tuya, you may state your claims. I actually placed the cameras in the house a couple years before I ran away, he stated, glaring daggers into his father, who just looked at him in shock, his face pale as a sheet. I was actually planning on suing the man myself for these exact charges when I acquired the money, but obviously things didn't go as planned. Tuya! Enji lost his cool and shot a blast of fire at his son. Before the fire could connect, Kuro intercepted with crossed arms, leaving behind some nasty-looking burn marks. Remember what I told you, Enji? Kuro smirked as Enji just realized what he did. That is enough. I believe we have seen enough evidence. The judge pounded his hammer onto the wood. Todoroki Enji, I declare you guilty of child abuse, child neglect, and domestic abuse, along with illegal Quirk marriage. Your sentence will be 10 years in prison with no parole. A few hours later, Kuro could be seen in a bar, downing a shot of hard liquor. A man and a girl walked over and sat next on either side of him. I'll take a shot of Fireball, please, the man said, and I'll take some cherry coke for the young lady. The bartender grunted as he went to prepare their drinks. Are you sure it was cool to disappear on your siblings like that? Kuro asked. They were looking for you for hours, you know? I felt kind of bad. Shut the fuck up, Dabi muttered as he took the glass the bartender gave him and downed it in one gulp. Let's get this shit over with. Fine, fine. Kuro waved his hand dismissively. What are your terms? Ooh, ooh. Toga raised her hand excitedly. I want to live with Kuro-san. I really want to taste his blood. I have nothing against something like that, but your partner over here, Kuro pointed at a scowling Dabi, would have something against it. Oh. Toga looked genuinely sad at the revelation. Dabi flinched. He saw Toga as a daughter figure, and he always hated seeing her sad. How about a compromise? Kuro downed a shot of whiskey. Our neighbor is actually going to be evicted for failure to pay rent, not the Midoriyas. You can move into the apartment there. I'll pay for your living expenses for 8 months. How does that sound? Dabi was about to say no, but upon looking at Toga's excited face, Dabi sighed in defeat. Fine, whatever, he mumbled. I want Toga to go to school, though, and I need you to get me a job. Kuro stared at the table, muttering to himself softly before looking up to Dabi. You know, there's actually an opening in the hero course. Maybe I can dash. Are you sure you want to do that? Dabi asked, looking at the man as if he were insane. Of course, Kuro smiled. Again, I trust you two aren't bad people. I'll find ways to circumvent Heimsan's cravings, and I'll be sure no one gets hurt. It's my job as head of security, after all. Yay! Toga squealed. She seemed more excited to go to school and meet kids her age rather than joining a hero course. Kuro wasn't even sure if she cared. Fine. Dabi admitted defeat yet again. What about me? I could always enlist you in my agency, but, Kuro emphasized the but as he saw Dabi glaring daggers at him. I know you wouldn't like that. I know a couple bartenders that owe me a favor. Since you frequent bars so much, I figured you would do well in one of them. Wait, how do you know Dabi started? But then considered who he was talking to. He was talking to Kuro Jisei, the man who seemed to know everything. Of course he knew that Dabi was an alcoholic. You know what? Forget I even asked. Pleasure doing business with you, Kuro-san. With that, the two men shook hands. Chapter 08 Changes and Preparation. Izuku groaned inwardly as he heard a knock on the door. Ever since he started UA, knocks on the door turned out to be disastrous for the young man. Inko had gone out early to get groceries, so Izuku won't have anyone to save him from whatever shenanigans Kuro had in store for him. He opened the door to see Kuro with two people. The first he recognized to be Todoroki Tuya, as Endeavor's court case was televised nationally, and a blonde girl, seemingly around Izuku's age. Morning, little man. I wanted you to meet our new Kuro was cut off as the girl threw herself at Izuku, tackling him to the floor. Oh my god, you smell so good, the girl squealed, a maniacal grin on her face as she stared at Izuku as he started to blush. Hey, can we be friends? Please. Heim-san, please don't get too close. He's shy with girls. Kuro winked at Izuku as he pulled the young lady off of him. Izuku shot Kuro a dirty look and Kuro chuckled and winked at his younger self. Anyways, this is Todoroki Tuya and this is Himiko Toga. They moved in next door not too long ago, and Himiko is going to be transferring to Class 1A as of today. Sup? Tuya looked generally unamused as he stared at a wall, his hands shoved in his pockets. He seemed irritated about something, but Izuku couldn't put his finger on what it was. Hey? Izuku said nervously as the color on his face started to turn back to normal. My name is Midoriya Izuku. It's nice to meet you. Midoriya-kun, can we be friends? Toga asked excitedly. Izuku noted that Toga was excited of the prospect of having a friend as if she's never had one before. Sure. Izuku forced a smile. It wasn't that he disliked the girl, he was just really nervous. As confident as he came off during the USJ incident, Izuku was still struggling with his anxiety. I would love to be your friend, Himiko-san. Yay! Toga squealed, hugging the young man tightly. Izuku yelped in surprise. his face turning tomato red yet again. Now, Kuro said, trying to de-escalate the situation before Izuku fainted. Let's get you two to school. I have to show Tuya to his new job. Tuya scoffed as Kuro pulled Toga off Izuku, and with some gentle prodding, they made their way towards UA High. Starting today, as per a special recommendation, we will be having a new transfer student, Shoyuta said in a monotone voice as he wrote the student's name on the blackboard. Of course, Izuku knew who it was, as they had already met before. I would like for you all to meet Himiko Toga. Hi! Toga waved her hand in an overly excited and cheerful greeting. I hope we can all be friends. Oh my god! She's so cute, Mina exclaimed. Of course you can be my friend. Hey, if you want to hang out with us, you're always welcome, Kirishima said enthusiastically. Kirishima was always one to make new friends, always being kind and inviting towards others. It is a pleasure to meet you, Himiko-san, Ida exclaimed in his professional and loud tone. I hope we have a very productive school year together. Don't forget we're in class. The class went silent as Shuta's eyes turned a threatening shade of red. Himiko-san, please take the empty seat between Midoriya and Yaoyorozu, please. Izuku paled as Toga bounded over to her new seat, her eyes focused on the young man. I'm so happy to be sitting next to you, Izuku-in. Why yeah, Izuku stammered as he silently prayed for class to start. That's nice. Anyways, with that out of the way, I'm sure you all know that the UA Sports Festival will be in 2 weeks, Shoyuta said, handing out flyers for the event. It's not unlike any other sporting event, but this is a very important one for you. Many pro heroes will be present at the festival, and they will request internships for those who catch their eye. Excited muttering swept through the class. A tick appeared on Shuta's forehead as he heard Kuro-san be mentioned more than once. Anyways, the next 2 weeks, we will be preparing for the sports festival. We will be going to the training grounds every day and you will be practicing your quirks. Izuku sighed in exasperation as he stared at the flyer. It was just one thing after the other, wasn't it? This was going to be an interesting next couple of weeks. Deku-kun. Uraraka latched on to Izuku's arm, pulling him towards an empty table. Let's eat lunch together. As Izuku's face turned red, he felt someone else latch onto his other arm. Izuku-in Toga pulled his arm towards an empty table on the opposite side. Won't you have lunch with me? I'll make it worth your while. Hey, no fair. Uraraka pouted at Toga as she pulled harder. I asked first. I don't care. I want to eat lunch with Izuku-in. Toga pouted back, tugging on Izuku's hand. Now, let's not kill the little man before you take him out. Kuro walked over to them as he realized his younger self was about to get a nosebleed. I'm sure you three can get along if you try hard enough. Or I can dash, Toga started, but was cut off by the glare Kuro gave her. We talked about this, Kuro said. Don't you do it or no TV for a week. Fine. Toga crossed her arms and pouted. Hey Haim, that boy over there looks a little lonely. Kuro pointed to Shoto, who was sitting in a corner, eating his food alone. Why don't you try and become friends with him? That's a great idea. Thanks, Kuro and I. Toga chirped before bounding off to harass the lonely boy. Sorry about that. Kuro rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Before she met Izuku this morning, she didn't really have any friends her age. She's just really excited. Oh. Uraraka looked at the girl who was excitedly chatting with Shoto, who awkwardly tried to get a word in. I didn't know that. It's okay. Kuro smiled and patted the girl's shoulder. She didn't mean any harm in trying to steal your boyfriend. Kuro-san, Izuku and Uraraka whined in unison. We already told you it's not like that. Yeah, keep telling yourselves that. Kuro waved his hand dismissively. Anyways, little man, I have some errands to run today, so can you keep watch on Haim-san and Eri-chan for today? I'll pay you when I get back. Fine, Izuku grumbled. Kuro smiled at the boy and walked off. What was that about? Who's Eri-chan? Uraraka asked curiously. Eri-chan is Kuro's adopted daughter, Izuku stated honestly. He has me babysit whenever he's out on hero duty. That's so cool, Uraraka exclaimed. I wonder what it's like to babysit for a pro hero. Trust me, Izuku said, shuddering. Babysitting for Kuro-sensei is anything but cool. Spinner had spent the day hunting down fakes in the name of his idol's stain. He had seen his message and was instantly hooked. Society had always treated him like some sort of mutant freak, and he was sick of it. He needed to get rid of those fakers and let the true heroes of society reign. He dashed through another alleyway before widening his eyes. Today was his lucky day. Right there, with his back facing him, was Black Lightning, the number 5 hero. Ever since Endeavor's arrest, Black Lightning had started going up in the charts, and people were saying that he would soon become the new number 2. Spinner dashed at the man, swinging his sword with the intent to slice the hero in two, but Black Lightning spun around, blocking the attack with a shield that appeared on his wrist. "Ah, Spinner," he said, a smile on his face. "I've been looking for you. What would the number 5 hero want with a C-class villain like me?" The lizard mutant sneered. He probably just wanted to humiliate Spinner and call him a mutant freak in public, just like everyone else. "I'll cut the crap," Kuro said, pushing force into his arm, causing Spinner to fly backwards. He landed gracefully on his feet, narrowing his eyes at the hero. "I want to provide you with a new place to stay and funds to go to a mutant support group." "Why the fuck would you want to do that?" Spinner asked suspiciously. "I'm a fucking villain, last time I checked. Aren't you supposed to arrest me?" "Spinner, the law isn't always right," Kuro stated. "Look, right now I'm going through the databases and trying to reform any villain that I can. I know you're not a bad person, Spinner. It was never your fault that society is so bigoted. I want to help you, Spinner. Laws be damned. Because that's what a hero does." Spinner froze. This was it. This Black Lightning was willing to help a villain shrouded in darkness because he can see the goodness in him, even when no one else could. Black Lightning was a true hero, one that embodied Stain's ideals. A truly good hero. So All Might wasn't the only one. That was a relief to Spinner. The world wasn't so messed up as to have only one person fighting for good. "All right," Spinner sighed, sheathing his sword. "I'll trust you. It means a lot that someone would go so far for me just based on a hunch." "It's not a hunch," Kuro said, looking into Spinner's confused eyes. "I can see it in your eyes. You're not evil. The resolve in your eyes. The need to be accepted. That's enough to get me to trust you." Spinner held back tears. Someone was finally treating him like a person. After all these years, someone was finally reaching out to him. Someone was finally trusted him. Kuro smiled as he held out his hand. Spinner smirked as the two shook hands. Maruko was perched on a building, looking to see if there was any trouble going on in the city. It was surprisingly empty. It had been months since the city was this free of crime. Something was off, and Maruko knew it. She narrowed her eyes as she thought about what could be happening. "Yo!" A deep voice made Maruko jump. She turned around and glared at the man before realizing that it was Black Lightning, the number 5 hero. The man that was quickly catching up to her on the charts, and one that was said to be surpassing her soon. "What do you want?" Maruko asked. "You don't usually patrol this part of the city. Is there something wrong with me waiting to make a couple friends?" Black Lightning asked her, waving his hand dismissively. "Anyways, I'm Kuro Jisei. Usajiyama Rumi." Maruko shook the hand that Kuro extended to her. "Are the clean streets you're doing?" "I thought that someone like you could use a little R&R, Kuro shrugged. "I didn't have anything to give you, so I thought I'd cover your shift as a sort of gift." "Some gift?" Maruko scoffed. "Thanks, anyways. I haven't been doing well on sleep." "Tell me about it," Kuro sighed. "I adopted a child not too long ago, and now my sleep schedule is all over the place." "You? A child?" Maruko asked. Kuro was nothing like what the media portrayed him as. To the media, Kuro was some stoic badass who didn't care for any relationships that weren't professional. I didn't see you as the type. I get that a lot, Kuro shrugged again. I know I'm supposed to be some stoic hero and all, but I just can't resist that adorable face. Maruko laughed out loud at that. The undefeated hero being defeated by a child? You need to tell me more, she said between laughs. I'm very interested in the child who managed to best the great black lightning. Kuro laughed a little and smiled a warm, genuine smile. You would have never asked. Kuro yawned as he drove Eri to school. He had stayed up all night chatting with Maruko and doting over his daughter. It was really fun for him, since he didn't get many opportunities to talk about his child. He parked his car and got out, opening the door for Eri. Kuro grabbed Eri's hand as the two walked over to room 3 and knocked on the door. A couple crashing sounds could be heard before Fuyumi opened the door, looking a little ragged. Ah, Kuro-san, she exclaimed happily. Don't mind my appearance. I just tripped over the wire over there. Kuro giggled and smiled at her. It's okay. Thank you for taking care of Eri-chan. Oh, that reminds me. Fuyumi straightened her glasses and looked at Kuro with a serious look on her face. I'm going to be visiting my mom after school tomorrow. I wanted to introduce you to her. After all, you are the one that saved us from Endeavor. Of course, Kuro smiled softly as he patted Eri's head, ignoring her whines of protest. I would love that. Chapter 09 Meetings and New Beginnings. Kuro checked his watch as he entered the hospital. 4 p.m. on the dot. He looked around for a little while before seeing Fuyumi waving him over. Kuro and Fuyumi would have gone together, but Kuro opted that it was better for Eri to stay at home with Toga and Izuku. After all, Eri was still shy with strangers. Are you ready? Fuyumi asked the man. As Kuro nodded, she led him through the busy hallways of the hospital before finding room 214. She opened the door and gestured for Kuro to enter first. Hi, Mom. I wanted to introduce you to someone. Oh. Rei turned her head to examine the two visitors. Ever since Enji's court case and the announcement of Tuya's survival, Rei has been doing a lot better mentally. And who might you be? My name is Kuro Jisei, Todoroki-san. Kuro bowed slightly at the greeting. It's an honor to meet you. Please call me Rei. Rei smiled at the man. After all, you are the one who saved my family. I was just doing my job as a hero. Kuro returned the woman's warm smile. Also, I couldn't help but step in after I caught wind that someone was abusing my daughter's precious teacher. Fuyumi blushed slightly at the praise. Yes, Eri-chan is a delight to have in my class. Do tell. Rei's warm smile never faltered. Kuro and Fuyumi took the two chairs in the room meant for visitors and sat down. After all, when someone asked Kuro about her daughter, they were in for a day worth of tales and stories. It was late at night when Fuyumi and Kuro walked out of the hospital, talking and laughing. Kuro then checked his wristwatch and paled. Crap. I'm going to be late for my meeting. Meeting? Fuyumi asked, curious as to what Kuro did in his spare time other than dote on his daughter. Oh, I'm running a… Kuro paused to think for a moment, having to choose his words carefully. Support group. I'm running a support group for those who feel like society has wronged them in some way, because of their quirks or otherwise. That's really sweet of you, Fuyumi smiled at the man. Kuro blushed ever so slightly at the praise and nodded. Anyways, I'll see you tomorrow, Fuyumi-san, he said before speeding off to meet his next target. Twice was perched on a building, eyeing a bank he was ready to cause havoc in. As Twice was about to jump down, he heard a whoosh and a crackle behind him. He turned around to see the recently appointed number 4 hero, Black Lightning. A man, he was definitely screwed this time. Yo, Twice! The hero waved his hand in a casual greeting before crossing his arms. I wanted to have a chat with you. Are you willing to put aside a few minutes to talk? No, I'll fucking kill you, Twice yelled. Instead of reacting, Kuro raised his eyebrow, his arms remaining crossed. Actually, never mind. I'm not feeling murdery right now. That's good, Kuro said, smiling slightly. Anyways, I wanted to invite you to this little group I have going on. Care to hear about it? Yeah, I've heard of your group, Twice said. The two paused for a second. It's called Prison. No, Kuro chuckled a little bit. It's less beat the crap out of you and hope you don't drop the soap, and more we help you with whatever's going on, and we work to wipe your name off the record of villains. What would you know about my problems? Fuck this. I'm leaving, Twice said, jumping down the building. After a couple seconds of waiting, Twice jumped back up. Actually, I changed my mind. You caught my attention, Mr. Hero Man. What do you want me to do? First of all, I'm going to move you into a better part of town, Kuro said. I'll pay for your expenses for 8 months. Longer if I have to. And no, alcohol and cigarettes don't count as living expenses. I already have 3 ex-villains living in the same apartment complex. All of them have their own stuff to work out, but I thought that it would be better if you all can help each other sort things out. You all have something in common. Society has wronged you in some way and you all feel the need to be accepted. That's why I'm doing this. You don't have to turn to villainy to be accepted by someone. So Twice, are you interested? After a small argument Twice had with himself, he crossed his arms and nodded. Sure, why not? Kuro smirked. Perhaps the thing he told Fuyumi wasn't complete bullshit after all. After thinking about it for a while, Kuro concluded that it couldn't hurt to have one of these meetings, so he invited Spinner, Dabi, Toga, and Twice to his apartment. Most of the ex-villains felt more comfortable wearing their old villain costumes because that represented who they are and how they felt. All the ex-villains sat in a circle with Kuro. Eri was on Kuro's lap, smiling with her eyes closed as Kuro brushed her hair. Why's the brat here? Spinner asked the man. I thought this was for people with problems. Well, Eri-chan here was being experimented on by Overhaul before I adopted her, Kuro said. Eri shuddered at the name and Kuro patted her head reassuringly. We all have stuff to work on and stuff we need to let out. Here we're not going to judge anyone for what they've done or what they've gone through. No matter what is said, no one will be judged, shunned, or arrested. That will be the point of the meeting. So, who wants to start? Well, my old man did an illegal Quirk marriage, Dabi started. He was trying to get the perfect combination of quirks so his child can surpass All Might or whatever. I'm sure you've heard of the case with Endeavor. Anyways, when my siblings and I didn't have the quirk he wanted, the old bastard treated us like shit. He'd hit us, yell at us, and berate us if anything we did was less than perfect. Same with our mom. After living the first half of my life like that, I had enough. I ran away and became a villain. I couldn't live in a world where scumbags like my piece of shit father could be known as one of the top heroes. After a small pause, Toga spoke up. My quirk makes me crave blood, she said, in a tone that might have been a bit too cheerful for the topic. My mother hated me for my quirk. She called me a freak. She screamed at me, hit me, and did really mean things to me. One day, she cornered me in the kitchen, so I grabbed a kitchen knife and killed her. I ran away after that and attacked people so I can satiate the craving for blood. A couple of the people in the group can tell that near the end, the cheerfulness in her voice was forced. Dabi put his hand on Toga's shoulder and pulled her into an embrace. I lived in a part of town that was really bigoted against mutant quirks, Spinner growled, the contempt for his place of birth painfully obvious. I'd be teased and bullied for my appearance. Once, when there was a fire in my school, a hero who was saving the children looked at me and told me to save myself before leaving. I somehow survived, which is when I saw Stain's message. I remembered that hero and I decided to follow Stain's ideals, cutting down the fake heroes. I had to deal with Dash Twice started after another moment of silence, but stopped. I don't really want to talk about it. Of course. Kuro put a hand on the man's shoulder, causing him to flinch a little. At the obvious sign of discomfort, Kuro pulled his hand away. No one here will make you share. This is an open environment to talk and to confide in each other. So, are you going to tell us what's fucked up with you? Spinner asked. Kuro looked down at Eri and patted her head. She heard enough profanity from Kuro's shouting matches at the table whenever he stubbed his toe to not be worried about having people cuss around her. Yeah, I used to live in another country. A place where no one outside of the country knew what was going on, Kuro started. It wasn't technically a lie. AFO set up signal jammers so Japan couldn't call for reinforcements from the rest of the world. We were locked in war with an evil villain, one at the cusp of achieving the power to take over the world. The only reason he didn't do it already is because my side was holding him back. I was in this war since I was a teenager. I lost so many people in that war. I was the last one to survive. At that time, I decided to start a new life in Japan. Make new friends, start a new family. It was then I swore never to let anyone down again. I swore that if I could save someone's life, or if I could save someone from the darkness, then I would. To be honest, I never saw any of you as villains. I just saw you as people wanting to live your lives and society fucking with your dreams and goals. There was a tense silence before Eri started sniffling. Papa's story is so sad. She hugged her adopted father and Kuro smiled, hugging her back and patting her head. Is there anything anyone else wants to add before we end this meeting? Everyone shook their head no except for Toga, who asked if she could have some of Kuro's blood. The obvious answer was no, but Kuro promised to get her a blood bag later that day. If that's all, then you can go home. I'll hold another meeting like this next week at the same time. It's your decision if you still want to come. I won't make you. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to talk about these things. I know how hard it is to open up to people, but we're here for you. My goal is to make a tight-knit group where all of you can confide in each other and none of you will feel alone again. With that, the ex-villains filed out of the room. Kuro looked at his wristwatch. He had overnight patrols soon, and it was getting late. He looked at his daughter, who was sound asleep in his arms. He gently lifted her up and tucked her into bed, kissing her forehead before leaving for work. Sir Night-Eye was curled up into a ball on his bed, in utter disbelief of what he saw. He kept on telling himself that it was a lie, a trick of the light, but no matter how much he told himself so, he knew it was the truth. He had been at this for a couple hours, but he decided that it was time. It was time to call All Might and tell him of the vision he just had. The vision of Black Lightning looking down at the corpse of the #1 hero. Kuro was standing on a building, overlooking the city to see if there was any more villains to go after. A loud crash interrupted his thoughts, causing Kuro to turn around. Deja vu? Kuro muttered to himself as he saw All Might standing there, with his arms crossed. Black Lightning, we need to talk. All Might's voice was serious, and for the first time Kuro had seen in this time around, All Might wasn't smiling. Kuro sighed, already knowing what was going to transpire in the next few minutes. Look, I already know what Sir Night-Eye saw, Kuro said. He expected the look of pure shock coming from his old mentor. How did you dash? All Might started, but Kuro held a hand up, signifying that he wasn't done. Look, I can't tell you everything right now. There are a few things that need to happen before I can reveal my secrets, Kuro said, much to the agitation of All Might. I know that you want answers, but this is important info. Info that can put even you in danger. What kind of person would be powerful enough as to be a danger to me for knowing such info? All Might asked, dreading the worst. I think we both know who, Kuro said, grimacing at the thought of that monster of a man. Anyways, here's my email. I'll answer any questions I can, but I can't tell you everything. There will be a time and place for that, and you will know when. Kuro handed All Might a slip of paper and vanished in a crackle of black electricity. All Might looked at the sheet of paper and gasped quietly as he read the contents. Offeralsafodrels@heromail.com. Chapter 10. The Day Before. Kuro sighed as he logged on to his backup email when he got home to be bombarded with emails by Gran Torino, Sir Night-Eye, and All Might. Knowing Nizu, he was probably doing some techie 4D chess moves that Kuro can't even begin to comprehend. He turned off his computer and flopped on the bed. Maybe it was a bad idea to reveal his identity. No matter though. It's not like they could beat the info out of them, and all of them know better than to try to get Kuro to talk through Eri. The last time someone tried to hold Eri hostage, the only thing left of their base was a 30-foot crater in the ground. Kuro stared at the ceiling and went over his plan for the sports festival. He had taken all the necessary precautions and has a plan laid out for what was going to happen and already knew who he was going to send intern requests to. He sighed, realizing that he was about to pass Best Jeanist in the rankings and considered also taking Bakugo as well. He shook his head, realizing Best Jeanist had more patience than him and could probably straighten him out a bit better as well. He closed his eyes, figuring he should take a break once in a while. Izuku followed Kuro through the winding hallways of UA High, wondering what he wanted this time. It seems like every other day, Kuro will drag him around to do errands, which were usually excuses for him to go chat up Lady Midnight and watch in glee as Midnight would talk to Izuku while deliberately trying to make him flustered. They finally find their way to Class 1H. Izuku wonders why Kuro brought him to a support classroom n.5 before school started. But the young boy has learned not to ask questions when it came to his neighbor. Kuro knocked on the door and waited as several crashes and small explosions could be heard before someone, who Izuku recognized as Power Loader, opened the door. Ashes and burn marks peppered around his body. "Oh great, not you again," Power Loader grumbled. "I don't know how you do it, but somehow May gets more excited when you're around. I don't know how much longer my sanity can take it." "Ah, don't be like that, Higuri-kun," Kuro teased lightly as Izuku shifted uncomfortably. "I just want to introduce our resident genius to my student here. I was thinking of getting a couple commissions for him before the internship started." "Whatever," Power Loader grumbled. "She's in the back, creating God knows what now." "Thank you," Kuro chirped as he dragged Izuku through the classroom to a girl with pink hair and goggles, working on a round sphere. "Mei-chan, I want you to meet someone." The girl, now named Mei, yelped as the orb combusted, leaving the three covered in dust of varying colors of the rainbow. "Oh, Kuro-san," the girl chirped, taking off her goggles to reveal beautiful, yellow eyes. "I was just working on a rainbow smokescreen. I'm still working on the specs, but I'm sure to have it down in no time." "It looks great." Kuro smiled excitedly at the girl. "This is Midoriya Izuku, my student. I was thinking of getting a couple things commissioned for him before the internship started." The girl instantly darted up to an uncomfortably close distance to Izuku, causing the boy's face to turn bright red. "Hi, I'm Handsome May. So you want me to make some super cute babies for you?" Izuku sputtered and stammered. Not able to form a coherent sentence, he waved his arms, trying to gesture that she was too close. May didn't get the message and just stared into his eyes expectantly. "Ah, Mei-chan, I'll deal with all of the ordering. I actually have everything written down on here." Kuro tapped the girl's shoulder and handed her a piece of paper. "Ooh." May looked at the paper, reading its contents. "You sure do love to give me a challenge, Kuro-san. I'll have these done by next week." "Thanks. Just give it to Midoriya-kun when you finish." Kuro smiled. "Anyways, have fun tormenting Power Loader. I have to take this little man over to the training areas." "Have fun," May chirped as the two walked away, Izuku still muttering to himself in shock. "Why did you take me to meet her?" Izuku asked, suspecting that he knew May's tendency to stand a bit too close to people. "Do you do that just to torment me?" "Usually yes, but there was another reason." Kuro smiled at the boy. "Mei-chan is actually the one who makes all my gadgets, so I thought I'd introduce her. She's a bit eccentric, but I wouldn't trust anyone else to make them." "You get your gadgets from a student?" Izuku asked curiously. "Most heroes around your ranking have entire companies working on their gadgets alone." "That is true, but Mei-chan is a prodigy," Kuro stated. "She truly cares for the things she makes and treats them more than just a means to an end. There aren't many people with the amount of passion she has in the industry left. I already ordered some starting equipment for you, but after that, you should probably order yourself. After all, you know what you want more than me." I guess," Izuku said nervously. If anything, talking to her would be harder than getting the money to pay for the gadgets he had in mind. Anyways, let's get to the training field. I want you to be at a certain level of power before you get sent off to your pro hero after the festival, Kuro said. Wait, so you're not going to be the one interning me? Izuku asked, a little hurt. He really wanted to intern under Kuro, as he was the number 4 hero, and Izuku looked up to the man. Nah, Kuro said, waving his hand dismissively. The people who know the truth about your quirk are very small, but also very reliable. I think it's time you should start meeting them. Kuro sighed as the two entered the training field. He wanted to have Izuku at 20% by the time internship started, but he knew that was impossible. He was only at around 10, and he couldn't possibly get Izuku up to 20 in such a short time. He wanted Izuku to get to 20% because that was the amount of power he was able to control before unlocking Black Whip, and if his theory was correct, the number of quirks he unlocked was directly related to the amount of power he could use without completely destroying his body. So we're going to start training you to use 12% of your quirk's power, Kuro said. Honestly, I wanted you to be a bit farther along, but I'd rather you not completely destroy your body in the process. Izuku nodded slightly as he channeled the power through his body, exerting a bit more than he usually did before launching towards Kuro. Izuku knew the drill by now. Whenever he was training with his quirk, it was almost always either sparring or rescue, and Kuro always spent time prepping before rescue. Good, Kuro said, dodging the young man's attack. When facing an opponent stronger than you should use the element of surprise to your favor. Izuku launched out a fury of attacks, trying his best to hit his mentor. He's maybe hit Kuro once or twice during training, but no more. Kuro effortlessly dodged all his attacks before launching a punch at his student. Izuku blocked the attack, but was still sent flying a few meters into a wall. Your attacks are too predictable, Kuro said sternly as he watched the boy get up. You need to improvise more. You won't always have the liberty of a plan. Izuku nodded as he started the hellish hour of training his mentor was about to put him through. Izuku stood up painfully from his seat, longing for a break. The training Kuro put him through was hellish in nature, and it didn't do him well in class. He went to go to get lunch only to see a bunch of students blocking his path. Many general students can be transferred up into the hero course. Izuku heard a boy talking to Kaken, who obviously was pissed off. The opposite is the same. It would do you well to consider these words a declaration of war. What the fuck did you just say? Kaken yelled at the boy. Before he could continue, a dry chuckle could be heard within the crowd. The kids made way as Kuro walked up to the two arguing students. He looked down at the boy who was talking to Kaken. He had purple hair and huge bags under his eyes. From what I'm hearing, Kuro started, towering over the boy, is that you're going to kick the asses of everyone in the hero course and move up to become a pro? That's right. The boy looked up at Kuro, seemingly unfazed. I'll prove everyone wrong. You got a problem with that? Kuro smirked. You got spunk, kid? Kuro said, turning around. Follow me. I want to talk with you. Hitoshi Shinso walked into Kuro's messy office, thoroughly scared. He backtalked the number 4 hero, a hero who seemed to have a particular liking to Class 1A. He was used to dealing with bigots judging people by their quirk, but he was up against someone with a lot of power. For all he knew, Kuro Jisei could expel him without a second thought. Kuro sat in his chair and looked at Shinso. Relax, kid. I'm not going to do anything bad to you, he said, shocking Shinso. He was so used to dealing with people who saw nothing about him but his quirk. Your name is Hitoshi Shinso, correct? Shinso nodded and Kuro gestured towards one of the couches. Sit, Hitoshi-kun. I won't take up too much of your time. What do you want from me? Shinso asked the man sitting down. Shinso activated his quirk, fully intending to brainwash the man into getting him out of this situation as soon as he responded. That quirk won't work on me? Kuro scowled, as if remembering something unpleasant. I've been brainwashed enough to develop a tolerance for quirks like yours. Shinso looked at him, shocked. How could he have detected the use of his quirk? Even more important, how was he resistant? He has never heard or seen anyone actively repel his quirk. Look, Koro started. I wanted to offer you a place among my interns when that rolls around. I know how society has treated you. I used to get that a lot when I was younger. Many people want to be heroes because of the money and fame, but you want to do it to prove something. You want to prove that even people with villainous quirks can become heroes. Shinso nodded, curious on how this man got so much knowledge of him. It was quite creepy, actually. I've heard rumors about you, Koro stated, as if reading the boy's mind. Kids in the general classes were talking crap about you, and I wanted to see for myself. Now that I've seen you firsthand, I can tell that you have a lot of promise. So, will you let me train you? Mustard walked calmly in an alley full of thugs, emitting his gas to cause the thugs to pass out. He was particularly in a bad mood that evening. The UA Sports Festival was tomorrow, and he'd have to spend the whole day putting up with a bunch of pampered, spoiled kids do stupid activities with no real meaning. He hated that the world let such simple kids be pampered. Mustard turned around, whipping out his gun and firing it at the sound of footsteps. How did someone manage to stay conscious while in his gas? He was still emitting it, so it must have traveled a few meters at least. He never heard the sound of bullets hitting flesh, though. He only heard the continuous sound of footsteps. Soon, the person Mustard shot at revealed himself to be the number 4 hero, Black Lightning. Mustard panicked and made a break for it. It was impossible for him to deal with a hero of that caliber, especially if he was somehow immune to his gases. Mustard turned to see if the hero was still there. When he saw he wasn't, he turned around, only to stop inches away from the man. He backed up, but noticed the Black Lightning wasn't approaching him, or even taking out handcuffs. Mustard, the hero started. I'm not here to fight. I just want to talk. What business would I have talking to someone like you? Mustard sneered. He knew where this man worked at. Mustard hated UA, the most prestigious school in Japan, where kids get pampered into being heroes. He hated it. He hated it so much. Look, I understand that you don't want to talk to someone who works at UA. Black Lightning started, sighing as he shoved his hands into his pocket. I understand what you think and how you feel. There are definitely some things wrong with how UA and society as a whole works. I know that society has wronged you, and I'm here to give you a second chance. A chance to get your life together and live happily. After all, the best form of vengeance is to live life to the fullest. Mustard narrowed his eyes behind his gas mask, letting his gas disappear. And why would you want to give a villain like me a second chance? As far as I'm concerned, I'm content with living my life as it is. A hero is supposed to save people, Black Lightning said. All the heroes out there are busy saving the civilians, but no one thinks about the villains. I understand your feelings. I had to go through hell and back to get where I am today. Society shunned me as well, never thinking that I would become a hero much like you. There weren't many people out there that really cared about you, and you never really got to live through your youth. I want to give you this chance to enjoy your teenage years, and have you grow up to become someone who can do good. Hell, maybe I can even make you a hero. I know you pride yourself in your skills, so why don't we put it to better use than just stealing and selling back weapons on the black market? Mustard paused to think. He had always wanted to become a hero, but society was too jacked to even recognize him. Now this man, one of the top-ranking heroes in Japan, was telling him that he could still achieve his dream, despite what others told him. He had never wanted to turn to a life of villainy, but circumstances lead him to a corner with no way out, until now. The young man looked at the hero and nodded. What do I need to do?